Hi and welcome to this week's exciting episode of History Talks. I'm your host, Connor Lingus. This week's holiday special is all about our most requested topic, genocide. As our several viewers at home know, each week we bring on a distinguished guest to answer our audience's most burning questions. So join me in giving a great welcome to the prolific author and bad boy of the history industry, Jeff. Jeff, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You look awful.
Thanks. Haven't slept in a while.
Well, you dedicated your life to the study of genocide. A tragic topic.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, people just don't appreciate the value of a good ethnic cleansing these days, you know?
Right. Well, you wrote a book about it, and I actually got my copy today. It hits the stores next week. Tell us a little bit about this book, Jeff.
So it's kind of like a 6-step program I wanted to implement. It's, brings in the past and the present and really shows us how we can learn from history and better our world today.
Okay. Well, that's going to bring us to our first viewer question. Go ahead and introduce him, Jeff.
From Cleveland, Ohio, that's going to be D-Nice.
Denise. It's Denise.
Hi, hello, History Talks team. My name is D-Nice. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. Thanks for having me on the show. Just a quick question. Okay, so as we all learned in school, America used to be inhabited by indigenous peoples, right? But they were, they got gotten rid of by the European settlers that came over through, disease, deception, genocide, all that stuff. And that made the great nation we know and love today. So my question is, does this sort of thing not happen anymore? Is there no more occupation, assimilation, ethnic cleansing of people? Like, what's going on? Is this not an applicable strategy today? Please tell me. I don't understand. Thanks.
Oh, beautiful question from a beautiful woman. The simple answer is yes, this is all still possible today. With my 6-step program, I can show you how the past isn't so different at all from the present.
Whoa. Are you saying that the same sort of atrocities that happened to Native Americans could be done today?
Oh yeah, and I'm not talking just the same games. Some of the same players involved as well.
But that's impossible. History talks, and we listen. We learn from our mistakes to build a better world.
Well, maybe it's not that history repeats because we're not learning from our mistakes, but maybe we're just learning really well. Almost as if we had a simple 6-step program to genocide and apartheid in a legitimate manner.
Jesus Christ, is that what this book is called?
Yeah, you didn't read it?
Well, no. The only things I read these days are Hustler and this damn teleprompter right here. Can you back up the claims made in this book?
Oh boy, can I.
Step 1. Duplicitous incursion. As most of us know, the grand fucking of all the indigenous peoples of Northern America started when the English first set up successful colonies on the East Coast. Deception is critical during Step 1. At first, invaders will be vulnerable, out of their element, and usually outnumbered. Deceit and feigning goodwill is necessary to gain a foothold in the new territory. Our modern parallel example of Step 1 was when European Zionists began to migrate to Palestine in the early 20th century. Like earlier European colonists in America, many of them were fleeing perilous conditions at home and were welcomed at first into the new land. Step 2. Unconsensual expansion. Okay, so now you got your foot in the door, now what? It's time to make some shit up and take some land. Treaties dating back as far as the 15th century Treaty of Tordesillas aimed to divide the New World up for the Old World powers, but the fact remained that Indians lived on these lands. So in 1830, the Indian Removal Act was passed by Andrew Jackson, one of the most ruthless motherfuckers of all time, banishing the dwindling natives to the shittiest parts of the country. Jumping back to our modern example, a perfectly executed Step 2 took place in Palestine in 1917, when England issued the Balfour Declaration. This stated that the land formerly known as Palestine was now to be given to the Jewish Zionists. The Balfour Declaration acted as a sort of manifest destiny for the Zionists, and within 20 years the Jewish population in Palestine had tripled to 33%. Just as with the Native Americans 100 years previously, no thought was given to the indigenous Arab population of Palestine during this time. Step 3. Military domination. In the decades following the Trail of Tears, several massacres, including the one at Sand Creek, Wounded Knee, and Gnadenhutten, served to further decimate and demoralize the native population. Gradually, their range was reduced to almost nothing, and modern America as we know it was formed. This Step 3 of military domination was taken to the next level by a US-backed Israel in the 1940s. Like some militarized version of Nike and University of Oregon, the United States funded Israel's conquest until by the end of 1948, over 700,000 Palestinians had been expelled from their own home country. This period of time is referred to Palestinians as the Nakba, when tens of thousands that did not flee were either killed or put under martial law, and 400 to 600 villages and cities were razed to the ground, leading to the destruction of urban Palestine.
And that sums up step 3, armed conflict.
Even the children!
Yeah, especially the kids. But also that brings us to step number 4, which is construction of external perception.
Oh!
Okay, so you succeeded in infiltrating a new land, and you humped your enemy into submission. Well, how do you keep the rest of the world from knowing that you're scum? Time for step 4. Even though it was basically regarded as chill during the 19th century to do horrible shit to people that weren't white, America was able to further justify its actions with its media and popular culture, which often depicted Native Americans as savages and ruthless threats to the white race, rather than people defending their homes. Well, getting away with genocide in the 19th century is one thing, but what about in the 20th and even 21st? In this age of mass media, how does one country pull the wool over the world's eyes? Well, honestly, they don't. Most of the international community openly condemns Israel's actions, but in a country that spends over $3.5 billion a year on aid for them, it's pretty easy to see why America's media might be heavily biased and why most of its citizens are ignorant or misinformed. The word terrorist has simply replaced the word savage in our lexicon, but the word for the aggressors is still just settlers. 200 years ago, if you spoke up, you were an Indian sympathizer, a traitor. If you speak up now, you're labeled an anti-Semite. Almost 10,000 Palestinians have been killed in the last 15 years, over 2,000 of them children, but that's not something you see on the news in this country. Clearly, Israel's influence on American media has protected its popular perception to a large extent, much like America's purported noble ambitions protected its image in the 19th century. Both great examples of step 4. And finally, step 5 and 6, apartheid and chill. Step 5 is a good old classic apartheid. Nothing just shatters a people's will to live like inferior living conditions and having to depend on government aid. After the Indian Removal Act, all the surviving Native Americans were forced to live on hell reservations, and in modern-day Palestine, the Palestinians that have not been jailed, killed, or fled either live in the West Bank or a place called the Gaza Strip. And when most of what's left of your country is called the something strip, you know your life is shit. Water and electricity are controlled by the occupying forces. It's a perfect example of step number 5. And as for the last step, number 6, well, you just sit back and enjoy your new country. Sure, there'll be some nasty paragraphs written about you by some nerds in history books later, but that's a small price to pay for your own nation.
And that pretty much sums up the 6-step program.
It's done?
Yeah, that's it, yeah. Did I succeed in convincing you that the past pretty much parallels the present?
You know, I always thought that history talked and we listened, but apparently we were deaf.
Yeah, that might be true, but on the bright side, my book has sold millions of copies in Russia, the United States, and Myanmar since the show started airing, so thank you very much for that.
Of course.
But I honestly, Connor, I don't think it's totally over for human beings. I think we can still turn things around.
You think there's still hope for the Palestinians so that they should not suffer the same fate as the Native Americans did?
No, they're thoroughly fucked. I just meant maybe in the future.
Oh. Well, join us again next week for another great episode of History Talks and We Listen. Bob Saget joins us as we discuss the sexual escapades of Benito Mussolini. Good night and good luck. Great book. No, I didn't read